Every offseason, draft analysts love to talk about team needs. For the Kansas City Chiefs, the obvious ones have been repeated ad nauseum: offensive tackle, defensive line, maybe even another wide receiver. But there's one position that isn't getting nearly enough buzz, and it might just be the most urgent of them all: running back. That's right. As strange as it might sound for a team that's consistently near the top of the league, Kansas City's backfield, when you peel back the layers, is alarmingly thin. Sure, there are names. There's grit. There's toughness. But there's also an undeniable lack of explosiveness, longevity, and above all, certainty. And with the 2025 NFL Draft knocking on the door, don't be shocked if the Chiefs do something bold. Take not one, but two running backs. Let's look at the facts. Isaiah Pacheco is a fan favorite, a 7th-round gem, but he's also racked up multiple injuries already and enters the final year of his rookie deal. Kareem Hunt was a solid veteran addition last season, but he's on the wrong side of 28. And Elijah Mitchell? High speed, low durability, and his contract barely secures him a spot on the 53-man roster. Then there's Carson Steele, a versatile piece. Yes, but more of a fullback-style hybrid than a traditional RB who can carry the load. That's the reality. As it stands, the Chiefs have 0 running backs under contract for 2026. That alone should have Brett Veach and Andy Reid in full evaluation mode. Now, take that uncertainty and pair it with a draft class that's loaded with talent at the position. You got speed demons like Tre'Veyon Henderson, RJ Harvey, DJ Giddens, and Brashard Smith, all of whom blew up the 40-yard dash at the NFL Combine. Then you've got powerful runners like Cam Scatterbo, Quinshon Judkins, and Damian Martinez, who don't just break tackles, they break spirits. What the Chiefs need isn't just one back to stash behind Pacheco. They need a reset. A full injection of youth, variety, and danger into a backfield that has grown methodical and, let's be honest, predictable. In 2024, Kansas City's run game got the job done in short yardage and tough spots. But there were very few moments where it flipped the field. Rarely did a handoff result in a back racing down the sideline, giving Mahomes a break while still moving the sticks. And when the offense needed a lightning strike on the ground, it just wasn't there. Adding 1, running back helps. Adding 2, that changes the complexion of the entire unit. The benefits are layered. First, it fosters real competition, something Andy Reid thrives on. You let these young backs fight in training camp and the best rise naturally. Second, it gives you stylistic options. 1 bruiser, 1 burner, 1 pass-catching specialist. You build a stable, not a committee. You let Mahomes work smarter, not harder. Let's not forget, Mahomes accounted for more of his team's total yardage last season than any other quarterback in the NFL. That's incredible, but also unsustainable. You want to protect your greatest asset? Give him easy yards. Give him a back who can take a check down and go 60, or a back who draws linebackers and then opens up the middle of the field for Kelsey and Rice. And let's talk business. Rookie running backs are cheap. Period. You get 4 to 5 years of production for next to nothing against the cap. For a contender like Kansas City that constantly dances with financial gymnastics to stay dominant, it's the smartest play on the board. So don't be surprised when the Chiefs shake things up. While the talking heads focus on tackles and edge rushers, Veach might be playing chess, stockpiling weapons behind Mahomes for both the present and future. Because the truth is, Mahomes doesn't need more pressure. He needs balance. And in this draft class, that balance could come from a bold but brilliant double dip at running back. With limited draft capital, Kansas City won't be able to plug every hole. So it comes down to one thing: prioritization. Most assume that the top priority is protecting Patrick Mahomes, and understandably so. The offensive line took a beating down the stretch, and Mahomes was sacked more than ever in his career last season. Rebuilding the wall in front of number 15 is a legitimate, urgent concern. But there's another area just as critical, one that gets lost in the shadow of offensive talk: the defensive line. Yes, the Chiefs re-signed superstar Chris Jones, and George Karlaftis has turned into one of the most productive young edge defenders in the league. But Jones isn't getting younger, and behind those two, the depth is thin. There's no long-term insurance plan, no third wave of pass rush waiting in the wings. That's why CBS Sports' Chris Trapasso threw a curveball in his latest What I Would Do mock draft, and Chiefs Kingdom should be listening. He has Kansas City using its first-round pick on LSU edge rusher Braden Swinson, explosive, productive outside rusher from the SEC to give George Karlaftis a boost in Kansas City, Trapasso wrote. And that one sentence says it all. Swinson is coming off his best season at LSU, 8.5 sacks, 13.0 tackles for lost 58 total tackles, 2 forced fumbles. Those are not fluke numbers. Those are signs of a player hitting his stride. And just in time for NFL scouts to take notice. And let's not forget, he put up those stats in the SEC where offensive lines are stacked with NFL talent. But it's not just the production that's intriguing. It's the trajectory. NFL.com's Lance Zierlein calls Swinson an ascending talent with the demeanor, traits, and talent to become a good starter. That's the kind of profile Kansas City thrives on. Guys with raw power, athleticism, and a ceiling that can be raised under Steve Spagnuolo's system. The Chiefs don't just draft for need. They draft for development. They've done it time and time again, taking talented players and turning them into cornerstones. And Swinson has the makeup to be the next one. In fact, drafting Swinson would serve 2 major purposes. Immediate impact. He can slot into the defensive line rotation and give Karlaftis some breathing room off the edge. With his burst and bend, Swinson could carve out a situational role right away, especially on third downs. Long-term vision. Let's be real. Chris Jones can't carry this line forever. He's been a force of nature, but he's also approaching the twilight years of his prime. The Chiefs need a succession plan. Swinson could be the spark that keeps the line dynamic in the post-Jones era. Some mocks have Swinson pegged as a second or third rounder, and maybe that's where he falls. But when you're a franchise like Kansas City, a franchise that doesn't just aim for the playoffs, but expects Super Bowls, you draft value. You draft fit. And if Swinson is the guy the coaching staff believes can grow into a starter, it doesn't matter what round the experts projected him in. Because here's the truth. Once these guys hit the NFL system, everything changes. Just as Trey Smith, or L'Jarius Sneed, or Rashee Rice, Swinson has the tools, the right locker room, the right defensive coordinator, the right system. In Kansas City, that's the recipe for stardom. And if Brett Veach believes in him, then don't blink when his name is called on day one. In the NFL, sometimes talent gets you noticed. Other times, it's all about connections. And when those two forces collide, that's when teams like the Kansas City Chiefs can make savvy moves that blend football IQ with locker room chemistry. As the 2025 NFL Draft draws near, most of the spotlight is rightfully on which big-name prospects might fall to pick number 31. But while Brett Veach and his front office are mapping out early-round targets, there are 2 names connected to Chiefs. Quarterbacks that deserve a second look. They're not headliners. They're not combine darlings, but they have something the Chiefs value deeply. Football bloodlines, grit, and the kind of upside that turns late-round picks or undrafted free agents into key contributors. Let's start with a name that might raise some eyebrows. Graham Walker, Patrick Mahomes' half-brother, and a tight end project worth watching. You heard that, right? Patrick Mahomes' paternal half-brother, Graham Walker, is eligible for the 2025 NFL Draft. And no, this isn't just a cute storyline for headlines. Walker can play, originally a wide receiver at Brown University, where he racked up 127 catches for 1,196 yards and 15 touchdowns over 3 seasons. Walker made the selfless and strategic decision to switch to tight end after transferring to Rice. In his lone season in that role, he posted 24 receptions for 252 yards across 12 games, while getting what he calls a crash course in blocking, leverage, and physicality. And his physical profile fits the mold. At his pro day, Walker measured in at 6'1", 243 pounds, and turned in solid numbers for a hybrid player. Pennant 82's 40-yard, dash 18 reps on the bench, 34.5-inch vertical, 7.3-inch 3-cone, 114-inch broad jump, the Chiefs' value culture. Trust, mental makeup. And with Walker, they be getting someone who already speaks the language of excellence inside the building. Jordan Oladakin, the sleeper cornerback who could be this year's camp. Steele on the other side of the ball. Another family tie is quietly drawing attention. Jordan Oladokin, younger brother of Chiefs third-string QB Chris Oladokin, just wrapped up a stellar season at Bowling Green. You haven't heard his name. That's not a knock on the kid. It's a knock on the system. Despite a shutdown season in 2024, Jordan didn't receive an invite to the NFL Scouting Combine. But the tape doesn't lie. Catches allowed on 61 targets, 0 touchdowns, allowed 5 interceptions, including a pick 6, 8 passes defended, 18.4, for a passer rating against second best in the FBS. Those are elite numbers. Period. Oladokin isn't a big corner, 5'10", 188 pounds, 30-inch arms, but he plays like he's 6'2", physical, fearless, a natural fit in off-man or zone schemes, which makes him a logical piece in Steve Spagnuolo's system, especially at nickel or as a developmental safety. Football is family, and the Chiefs know how to bet on bloodlines. Are either of these players locks to wear the red and gold come September? No. But should they be on Kansas City's radar on day 3 or in the mad dash of undrafted free agency? Absolutely. In a league where every edge matters, where fit, familiarity, and football IQ are gold, both Walker and Oladokin make too much sense to ignore. Add in their bloodlines ties to the current locker room and real college production, and you've got 2 names that could make Chiefs fans say a year from now, wait. Now, why didn't more people see that coming? Kansas City's offensive line isn't a finished product. It's a work in progress. And while Brett Veach has already made some moves, most notably signing former 49ers swing tackle Jaylon Moore to a 2-year, $30 million deal, most within. Chiefs Kingdom, no, that's not the long-term fix. That's a Band-Aid, not a blueprint. This is the same team that just saw Patrick Mahomes sacked 47 times. The most in his career. And while he still dragged Kansas City to another Super Bowl appearance, the cost of that pressure showed. You can only ask so much of even the greatest quarterback in the game, especially when your blindside protection is shaky at best. That's why mock drafts continue to hammer the offensive line as the number 1 priority for the Chiefs heading into the 2025 NFL Draft. And they're right. For ESPN's Ben Solak, the recent signing of Moore doesn't change the math. In his latest analysis, he explains why Kansas City should be all in on drafting a potential starter, not just depth at either tackle or guard. Jaylon Moore's 2-year, $30 million deal is not nearly big enough to prohibit them from snagging a starting left tackle should they believe in a player like Josh Conerly Jr. or Josh Simmons, Solak wrote. Similarly, while there's internal excitement about Kingsley Suamataia starting at left guard, he played only 1 game there last season and is not a sure bet. Donovan Jackson, Ohio State, is a scheme fit and would be a home run selection. That's the kind of honest, layered take that mirrors how the Chiefs front office thinks. Let's break it down. Jaylon Moore is a solid addition. He brings versatility, has experience in a zone-heavy system, and gives KC an emergency plan. But at $15 million per year, that's middle-tier tackle money, not your franchise left tackle money. If the right player is there at 31, you don't hesitate. Josh Conerly Jr., Oregon, and Josh Simmons, Ohio State, are both considered plug-and-play prospects at left tackle. Conerly has the athleticism and hand placement of a future Pro Bowler. Simmons has the physical tools and size that scream long-term solution, even if there's still some development needed. But then comes the Donovan Jackson twist. At first glance, Jackson isn't the headline pick. He's not a projected day 1 starter, a tackle. But what he is violent, fast, nasty in the trenches. And with the interior offensive line in flux, especially after Thuney's departure, he suddenly becomes a real fit, especially if Suamataia slides to guard and competes with Mike Caliendo for that open LG job. Jackson doesn't just bring depth. He brings tone-setting physicality, the kind of play-through-the-whistle mentality that made Trey Smith a fan favorite. And at 6'4", 320 lbs, he's a mauler who thrives in gap or zone schemes, exactly what Andy Reid likes to mix and match. So here's the bottom line. This draft is critical for the Chiefs' long-term success. And while receiver and running back are being debated as needs, there's no debate when it comes to the trenches. If Kansas City wants to keep Mahomes upright, keep the offense humming, and push for yet another Lombardi, then the offensive line must be reinforced, not patched. And whether it's Simmons, Connerly Jr., or Jackson, all three bring something Kansas City doesn't currently have enough of. Future-proof protection, because if we've learned anything in the Mahomes era, it's this. The dynasty runs through number 15, and it starts with keeping him clean.